you go up that way, Bill?
No, it says fine only, please.
Oh. We went up that time. We're gonna come up the down.
All right. As you can obviously tell, this is the chapel. The chapel here is actually, believe it or not, is no longer considered holy ground. It's considered a exhibit piece. It was holy ground many years ago. The last time they made it holy ground was back in the 70s or 80s for a wedding, but ever since then, it's no longer considered holy ground here. Now, in here, this is where I also talk about one of the key requirements of being in the military, especially in France at this time. In order to be in the French military, one of the key requirements is you had to be the same religion as your king. Catholic chapel in the middle of a French fort, process of elimination. What was King Louis? He was a Catholic. While in the British military, opposite. You had to be what was called Anglican. What an Anglican is, I studied religion back in college, and the best way I can describe it without confusing myself and everyone else in here, it is basically a Protestant with the appearance of Catholic rituals. So basically, most Lutheran churches, they're a little bit smaller, not very ornate, but obviously Catholic churches are pretty ornate and large. A Anglican church, even though it's a Protestant church, it looks like a Catholic church. If you've seen footage of Princess Kate and Prince William, their marriage or their wedding day, that was technically a Lutheran church they were in, but it looks like a Catholic cathedral. All left over from Henry VIII during the Protestant Reformation, the formation of the Church of England. But it's also because of that England breaking away from the Catholic Church is what caused a lot of tension with England, with pretty much the rest of Europe that was predominantly Catholic, namely Spain and France, who were very, very Catholic. So in here, they would have daily Mass in here. Mass was usually around almost 2 to 3 hours long for the French soldiers, and they had to stand that whole time because in the 18th century in Europe, a lot of Catholic churches didn't have pews yet. Everyone stayed standing for the services. The problem they had then, people started passing out from standing too long because if you stand for a long period of time with your legs locked, that could somehow cause you to start, weebling, and then you pass out. So then in the late 18th century, they started putting pews into Catholic churches, and then they ran into a new problem. For some of them, people started falling asleep. So what they had was a deacon would go up and down the aisles with a long pole, and with a little ball on the end of it. Now, when I first saw this in a painting, I was like 8 or 9, I thought the guy was actually swinging like Babe Ruth at people with this thing. All he does is he walks up, keeps an eye on people. If someone looks like they're falling asleep, or if they are asleep, he just reaches over and just taps them on the head with it. And it's just to kind of be like, okay, I'm awake, I'm sorry. But then if they were like me back in college, nodding off, just kind of, you're forcing yourself to stay awake, but it's not really working. Sometimes they would have a big feather on the other end of it, and they'll bring it over and they'll run it under your nose to kind of just wake you back up. So that's still the only church I know that still does this, not using the rod, but having like Mass where you have to be standing, is the Russian Orthodox churches. They still do a lot of standing for their services. But in here, behind this room here would be the priest's bedroom, and then behind his room would be his maid's room. And his maid, her jobs were strictly to work for him. It was to cook his meals, mend his clothes, clean his room. doing all the tidying work while he did his work out here for the soldiers.